and I reduce that fraction to lowest terms. So when you guys see that fraction of 36 over 45, I would hope that we would say, okay, can I find a number that goes into both of those? Yep, 9 goes into both top and bottom. And so if I divide top and bottom both by 9, I can reduce the fraction to 4/5. And now maybe we know what 4/5 is as a decimal. Hopefully we recognize from those days that each 1/5 is equal to 0.2. And so if I have 4/5, then I can multiply that by 4. That would be a 0.8. But now we got to change it into a percentage because that's what the question asked for. And so we have 80%. Maybe that's one way to go through it. Maybe that's one way. You got down to 80%, you're good. 81% is not good because it's wrong. 80% is perfect. It is exactly equal to 80%. Okay, you guys take a look at B, and maybe something comes back to you guys about how to change decimals into percentages. What are all percentages out of? 100. So if I ever need to change a decimal into a percentage, then I need to multiply by 100. And for a lot of us, maybe we remember that multiplying by 100 means our place value is going to move 2 to the right. And so some of you even remember like drawing those little loops in, like I'm moving my decimal place 2 to the right. That for us to go through, that's now 1.65%. So hopefully those went okay. Those should have as we went. Okay, now you take a look at question 2. I have to write that as a decimal. Well, if changing it into a percentage meant that I multiplied by 100, then changing it back into a decimal means that I have to divide by 100. And a lot of us remember that to divide by 100 means I move the decimal place to the left. Okay, that's going to leave an open place value, so I got to fill that in with a 0. And so therefore, we should have got 0.075 as your decimal. How many people are used to multiplying by 100, dividing by 100, moving the decimal place 2 to the left, 2 to the right, that sort of thing to change number forms? Common thing? Like, do we even remember sometimes drawing the loops? Maybe, yeah. Okay, you guys take a look at question 3. Now I have to take that and I have to write that in a fraction. I'm going to bet that for most of us, taking a percent or a decimal and going backwards almost and writing it as a fraction is the most difficult thing that we deal with. It should be the easiest because it actually spells it out for you. But I get, though, that it's going to be the one that we do the least. You guys see 65%? What are all percentages out of? 100. So make it out of 100. And now your only job is reduce that fraction to lowest terms. What number goes in top and bottom evenly? Harry? 5, because my numbers end with a 5 and 0. 65 divided by 5. We're going to do a little short division. Ready? You're doing long division in your head. What's 6 divided by 5? How many times does a 5 go into 6? Once. Write down your answer. What's left over? 1. Take that 1, put it together with the 5. 1, 5 means 15. What's 15 divided by 5? There you go. You just took 65 and you divided it by 5. Now on the bottom, let's say we didn't know what 100 divided by 5 was. Let's just do some short division. What's 10 divided by 5? 2. Write down your answer. Do I have anything left over? Nope. Put it together with the other 0. What's 0 divided by 5? 0. And there we go. 13/20, fully reduced. We know we're done. Okay, we're going to pick up the pace. We're going to keep going. You guys are keeping up with me. Question 4. We have to now calculate some percentages of a number. And this is where I come back to our multiplying, dividing fractions lesson. When we see that word of, we need to make sure that we recognize that of means multiply. And so if I was to rewrite that question, I could write it this way: 40% multiplied by 130. But here's the problem, that percentages are difficult to work with. And normally we never work with percentages. Instead, we change our number form. So you could change that percentage into a fraction, but I'm going to bet for most people, putting fractions in there probably made you slower. Then why don't we change that percentage into a decimal? And so for us to go through and calculate, for most of us, we're going to change 40% into 0.4, and then we multiply by 130. Okay, that might not be that fast for us, so we're going to deal with a quick review of how we multiply decimals. Okay, as soon as there's a decimal number in there, I get that a lot of us are going to want to slow down, and maybe we go 130 times 0.4, and we go like through an old multiplication algorithm. Are you guys all good that to multiply by decimals is really just multiply by whole numbers? And then just remember your place value. So what I want us to do is let's ignore the 0.4 and just treat it like 4. Let's take 4 and multiply it by 130. Well, what's 4 times 0? 0. What's 4 times 3? 12. Carry your 1. What's 4 times 1? 4. Now we got our 5. I would love it if we actually went backwards and we said 4 times 100 is 400. 4 times 30 is 120. 400 and 120 is 520. Done. Okay, you guys are good that our answer is not 520, right? What did we ignore? We ignored the decimal place. What did we do? We took out 1 decimal place. So we have to put it back in. There's where my decimal should be, and therefore my answer should be 52. Anytime you guys need to multiply and deal with decimals, just get rid of the decimals. Just make sure you put your place value back in. Put back in those decimal points. There we go. Okay, are we okay with the red? Change it to a decimal and multiply. Okay, I'm going to go through that last one again, though, and I'm going to put up a green solution because I'm going to do what a lot of you probably would not have wanted to do, which is change 40% into a fraction. 40% is 2/5. Why? Because each 1/5 is 0.2, so 40% would be 2 of them, 2/5. Can you guys see your little bedmass question there? I have multiply and I have divide. I get to do whichever one I want. Maybe I divide first. Maybe I multiply first. It doesn't matter. This is as slow as you can be. What's 2 times 130? 260. A lot of us are pretty solid at doubling something. Now I have to divide that by 5. Okay, here we go, a little short division. How many 5s can you take out of 26? 5 of them. Write down your answer. When I take out those, how much is left over? 1, because I need 1 more to get up to 26. Take that 1, put it together with the 0. 1, 0 is 10. What's 10 divided by 5? 2. And there you go. Some people might like the fractions because fractions are just whole numbers, just with the divide operation. Okay, we're going to go through super fast on B, and I mean I'm picking up the pace. If you had a calculator at your disposal, then wouldn't we all just change 3.5% into a decimal? So let's change it into a decimal. Move the decimal place 2 spots to divide by 100. So you get 0.035. What operation does of mean? Multiply. And we could calculate 0.035 times 5,400. Okay, go ahead. Take out your calculator. I told you guys you had to bring your calculator every day. If you don't have your calculator, today's the last day I let you use your phone. In the future, if you don't have a calculator, then you have to use your head. But today you can use your phone. Okay, you guys would all be good to push buttons on that. I don't think very many of us would be looking at that going, I know 35 times 5,400 off the top of my head. So I need you to know that if I were to throw numbers like that at you on an evaluation, you'd have your calculator with you. However, like, we do have some other ways we could deal with this. Like 0.035 is 35 over 1,000. And then I multiply that by 5,400. I'm going to divide my top and bottom both by 10 because I'm going to wipe, or 100, and wipe out those two zeros. Well, now I look at it and I say, I have a 35 times a 54 all over 10. I could divide a 2 out of my 54 and divide a 2 out of my 10. And then I could divide a 5 out of my 5 and a 5 out of my 35. And so for me to calculate that, really all I need to calculate is what is 7 times 27. And so now maybe I do some long multiplication. I don't know. And do we go 49, carry the 4? Hey, what's 0.035 times 5,400? What does your calculator spit out? Like, you guys could do that. There wasn't anything in there that was like magic. I'm just going to bet and say for none of you is that instinct. That's all. But maybe we can make it that way a little bit. Okay, I'm jumping down to that last problem. Question number 5. I would have expected question number 5 to be a doozy for you. And for a lot of you, I did not give you anywhere near enough time to get down to 5. So it's okay if you didn't get 5 started. I want to talk to you guys a couple ways to work your way through question 5. You have to determine the number, and it's a missing number. So question A says 20% of a number is 30. So you have to come up with, what is the number? Well, if 20% of a number is 30, then you got to figure out what is the number that taking 20% of it results in 30. And I would hope that even though we haven't done any algebra review, you guys have at least got a little bit in that you could always replace like a missing thing with a symbol. So replace it with an X for a variable. Replace it with a question mark if you want. Like, replace it with happy face if you want. Happy face. There you go. 20% of happy face is 30. Like, there's my English language a little bit. But now I can turn it into mathematical language. What operation does of mean? And what symbol does is mean? Equals. That you could take that red statement and we could turn it into 0.2 of happy face equals 30. And you guys could solve for that. I'm going to bet and say some of you would struggle to solve with that right now. But I bet you some of you could be okay if I changed 0.2 into a fraction. 0.2 as a fraction is 1/5. 1/5 of happy face is 30. I bet you I have some people in here right now who could tell me what happy face is. If I told you to take 1/5 of happy face and that's going to result in 30, you could tell me what happy face was. Any takers? Aiden.
150.
150. Because what that says is, take happy face and divide it by 5, and your answer is going to be 30. Some of you now can see, well, then how do we figure out what happy face is? Well, I need to get rid of that divide by 5. How do you get rid of divide by 5? Well, what's the opposite of divide by 5? Multiply by 5. So if I want to get rid of that, then I need to multiply the other side by that value. And what's 30 times 5? There you go. We found out happy face equals 150. It doesn't have to be that difficult in terms of process. Can you guys look at your blue line? And if you do have a calculator at your disposal, can you now see how you can calculate it? To get the happy face all by itself, what do you have to get rid of in blue? You have to get rid of a times by 0.2. Well, what's the opposite of multiply by 0.2? What's the opposite of multiply? Divide. So why don't I take 30 and I divide it by 0.2? Okay, go ahead and push buttons on your calculator because I know you trust your calculator more than you'll ever trust me. And what's 30 divided by 0.2? There's your 150. Okay, you guys have the means to get there. So take a look at B. B should actually be even more direct just because I gave you 10%. Worst case is build the blue statement. What's 10% as a decimal? 0.1. What operation does of mean? Multiply. Are you tired of writing happy face in your solution? Yes. So maybe we just want to plug in like a question mark or an X or a Y or whatever. What does is mean? Equals. To figure out what's missing, what do I have to do to 70? Harry? No. Divide by 0.1. I've got the multiply on the left side, so how do I get rid of multiply? I divide. Okay. What's 70 divided by 0.1? I would have expected a lot of you guys to be able to do that off the top of your head with no calculator. Because isn't 10% not just 1/10? So if 1/10 of a number is 70, then the total before had to be 700. Now, do you have to show me any of that in your solution? No. If you wrote down equals 700, perfect. But if you didn't write down equals 700 and you wrote down equals, I don't know, 7, what would be your mark? 0. The work just helps me to see what your understanding is. Okay, that first page is a ton of percent, playing around with percent review. What we're going to do is we're going to flip into a different mode, okay? So when you guys turn over that page, we're going to actually walk through this page a little bit differently than today. As we start to work our way through the problems, all I'm going to talk about is what's the most efficient way, or what are the multiple ways that you can provide solutions for each of these problems. Recognizing that some of you guys would have just been inefficient, and me making you aware of what you need to show me and what you don't. Okay, give question 1 a read. Okay, we should have that problem read. Doesn't mean we know how to solve it yet. Remember, you're already sitting in front of me with all these solutions down. So the act of you reading that question was a reminder from the work you did before. Okay, now we're talking about Matt. Matt's selling some stuff. He makes money based on a fixed pay and based on a commission. So for you to go through and calculate a solution to that, then for us to go through, we can say, okay, Matt's going to get paid $50 a week regardless. And then he's going to get on top of that plus a commission of 12% of his sales. And it tells me that his sales in 1 week were $350. There is my calculation. That is how I'm going to go through and answer the question, how much did he earn that week? Okay, you don't have to write that blue down. Like for a lot of us, we're going to end up doing this and say, okay, so I'm going to take my $50 And I'm going to add to that 0.12 of 350. And then you calculate some stuff. So you guys are going to be active in your desk. Well, what's 0.12 times 350? Oh, you guys are doing the calculations for me. I'm keeping you engaged. And there we go. Now, can I just get you guys to get down in your notes a couple key things? That 50 would be referred to as your fixed amount. Because every single week, regardless of what Matt sells, he's making that 50 bucks. The extra, and you guys are all good at drawing those beautiful brace brackets, right? That extra, oh, some of you guys draw some hideous ones. That extra amount of his commission is what we call a variable amount, because it's going to change each week depending on how much Matt sells. Okay, what did the question ask you to find? How much did he earn that week? What was his total earnings then? 92. You would lose 4 marks if you just told me 92 because you don't have your units on. What units are we talking about for $92? You're perfect. I always talk to everybody. Guys, I understand that in grade 8, you would not be finished that problem right now, would you? Because what would you have to write? Therefore, Matt, in his selling of his magazines, because he was happy on that day, sold so... Sometimes you guys have to write a bloody essay at the end of your word problem as a therefore statement. You don't have to include any of that. What did the question ask you? How much did he earn that week? And if you answered 92 bucks, and I don't understand that, and I go, well, but you didn't put like this big therefore statement. Like, I don't understand what your answer means. Then doesn't that speak more about me than it does you? Like, seriously, the question said, how much did he earn that week? And your final answer was that. Didn't you clearly answer the question? Yes. So please don't give me a big, light, and fluffy therefore statement. If you give me your number answer and then you include your units, that's perfect. It's perfect. Okay, you're done. There we go. First problem reviewed. Now we're jumping into the next one. Blu-ray player costs $59.99. It's on sale for 30% off. Find the after-tax sale price. I'm going to go through this problem with you the way I would expect a lot of you to show me. And then we're going to cut that work in half. Okay. I would expect a lot of people in red to give me this solution. Okay, well, for me to calculate the after-tax sale price, I need to calculate the sale price. Well, the sale price is going to be 30% off. So I'm going to take $59.99 and I'm going to multiply that by 0.3 because that's my 30%. And that's going to tell me how much is coming off the price. So you guys are doing all the calculations, not me. So calculate your 59.99 times 0.3. What I'd like you to do is give that to me in 3 decimal places. What do we end up getting? Has anybody got it? Harry, what do you got? 17.997. That's the 3 decimal places. Our problem is money goes to how many decimal places? 2. So that means that I have to look at the 3rd decimal place and figure out how to round off to 2. What's that 7 going to do to the 9? It's going to bump it up, but then it bumps it up to a 10. So what's that going to do to the other 9? Bump it up, which then that's going to do. So we get our solution. $18 is coming off. Do you have to put a dollar sign on that 18? Yes. No. And this is where I got to clarify, because is that your final answer? Is that the answer to the question that was asked? No. So you don't need to put your units on. 18. Well, what does that 18 represent? That's the amount of money that came off. So now I'm going to calculate my old price of $59.99, and I'm going to subtract my 18 bucks. Okay, that one we shouldn't need a calculator on, because if you're going to take 59 and you minus 18, then that's going to give us 41. Okay, do I need a dollar sign on that $41.99? No, because it's still not my final answer. Because what have I not taken into account? Tax. So now I got to put tax on. Okay, what's our percentage in tax? 13%. So now I'm going to come up here, and now I need to calculate what 0.13 times 41.99 is. I have to figure out how much tax I pay. So we're going to push some buttons on that one. 3 decimal places again. Harry, what do you got? Say that again for me. 5.458. And there we go. Okay, we got to go through the same process. Money's rounded off to 2 decimal places. So what's that 8 going to do to the 5? It's going to bump it up. So I have $5.46 as my tax. Do I need dollar sign on that? No, because that's still not my after-tax price. So now I need to take my sale price and add on my tax. And finally, when I put that stuff together, then I'm going to get $41 plus $5 is $46. And then my 99 cents plus 46 cents is another $1.45. So I'm going to have my 46 and another $1.45. I get $47.45. Do I need a dollar sign on that? Yes, because I finally answered the question. Okay, if you guys were asked that problem in the past, how many people would have done all that red work and been expected to show all that red work? I would bet almost all of you. I don't want you doing half of that work. Because I want you to notice that we did a bunch of stuff that I never even asked you about. Okay, take a look at that. I want you to find the after-tax sale price. Did I even once ask you, how much money did you save? Never. I never asked you about the $18 that came off the price. Never. Did I ever ask you how much tax you paid? We could do that problem in half the work. So I want to make sure you guys are good to be efficient with that. So can I get you to put a little wavy line down that segment on your page? And we're going to put down another solution to that, and I want us to do it in half the time. Okay. If 30% is coming off, then how much percent is left over? Here. 70. Right? If we're going to take 30% off of everything, which is 100%, then that means that I'm left with 70%. So if I don't care how much money I saved, then why don't I just calculate 70% of my regular price? Which for most of you, you would never even write down that blue. You would go straight to 0.7 times $59.99. Go ahead and push buttons. What does 0.7 times $59.99 come out to?
41.993.
And there we go. And that 3 is going to keep the 9 as it is. And so what did we find right off the bat? We found the sale price. Don't go to how much came off. Just find the sale price. Okay, next part. Since I didn't ask you about how much tax do you pay, and all we care about is the after-tax price, then why don't we just get the total right off the bat? How much tax do you pay? 13%. But if I want my total, then what I need is, I need the 13% in tax plus my whole price. That is the price of everything. Everything is 100%. Are you guys good that to get our after-tax price, we need all of the old price plus the additional 13%? So change those into decimals. Like everything in math is 1 plus 13% is 0.13. Then why don't we just take 1.13 and multiply it by our sale price? If I multiply by 0.13, I'm going to get my tax. But if I multiply by 1.13, then I'm going to get my total with the tax. Okay, let's push some buttons. What do we get if we have 1.13 times $41.99? And is that my final answer? Is that what the question asked? Yep. Put on my units, and I'm good. Guys, I would love it if I was to ask you guys that question again, and all I saw was the blue. I would love it. Now, if the question asked you, how much do you save? Or if the question asked you, how much tax do you pay? Well, then you'd have to find some other things. But for us to find an after-tax price, I would hope that we can just find what's left over, put tax on it, and we're all good. Some of you guys are going to really like the fact that you don't have to do all 4 steps to do that. Okay, let's keep it going. You guys take a look at question 3. You got your geography test handed back to you. There's your grade. What percent did you earn? So the only reason I wanted to talk about this was the aspect that we should be good that all percentages represent a part out of a total. There's your good old fraction. That's all it is. It's a part of a total. But if I was to ever calculate the part divided by the total, I'm not going to get a percent. That for me to change that into a percentage means I need to multiply by 100. So most of you guys would just punch that into your calculator anyway. Like you would have told me, well, 65 out of 70 was my grade on the test. And so to turn that into a percentage, then I need to take my 65, divide it by 70, and now tack on changing it into percent form. Now, do we have any rules when it comes to what percent you get on the test? Do we have to round to 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, no decimal places? There are no rules. With money, there were rules. You have to round 2 decimal places. Percentage on a test, no rules. If there are no rules, then you round to 2 by default. By default, okay? So, can you guys calculate 65 divided by 70, multiply by 100, and I want you to round it off to 2 decimal places. And we're going to make sure that we round correctly. So, can anybody give that to me to 3 decimal places? I stumped you guys on that? Push some buttons. I can train a monkey to push a calculator button. I could train a monkey to punch in 65 divided by 70 times by 100. I had to talk with that with cohort A. What do we end up getting? Seriously, I'm not doing your math for you. Harry, what do you got? You got to scream for me, the fan's on. 92%. No, I need it to 3 decimal places right now. So if we were to round it to 2 decimal places, then that 7 is going to bump it up 92.86%. And that's what I would expect to see. There we go. Okay, hopefully not too bad. We're moving. Question 4. Sport Chek buys a hockey jersey from its supplier for $42.30. Sport Chek includes a markup of 60% in its retail price. What is the retail price? You guys all get that that's the way stores work, right? Especially merchandisers. If they don't make the product themselves, they buy it from somebody else, and then they turn around, they mark up the price, and they sell it to you. Why do they mark up the price? To make a profit. But they don't make a profit yet. Like, what else do they have to pay for? So if they bought that jersey from the supplier, they bought it for $42.30. They're not going to sell it for that, because what else do they have to pay for? Shipping. What else do they have to pay for? Come on, it's Sport Check. When you walk into Sport Check, what else do you experience? Well, A, you walked into Sport Check, where the light's on. You got some hydro. What else in Sport Check? Hey, employees. They got to pay wages for all their workers. You got all these extra costs that come in, so they mark it up, and then once you subtract all those extra costs, then you got your profit. Okay, how much is Sport Check going to actually sell that jersey for then? Okay, we're going to deal with this the long way again. The long way would have said, well, then we need 60% of $42.30. Okay, well, 60% is a 0.6. Of means multiply. And so we can push some buttons and calculate it. Go fast, push some buttons. We're talking about money, so we're going to round off to 2 decimal places. Cam, what do you got? 25.38. Sorry, scream for me, Cam. 25.38. Perfect. There we go. Is that our final answer? Sport Check going to sell it for $25.38? No. Clearly, they're going to lose money. They're going to sell it for less than what they bought it for. So what are we going to now do with that $25.38? Harry? You got it. We take what we paid for it and we add it on, because what does markup mean? It means the extra amount that we add on to that price. And so we're going to get a 67.68 as our final price. Since that's our final price, that's the final of what the question asked, put on your units and you're good. Okay, can you guys see that this is really like the tax question, and you could have done this question in one step? If we're going to mark up the price 60%, then that means that I need everything from the old price, which is 1, plus an additional 60%. Well, if I just took 1.6 then, and I multiplied that by 42.30, push some buttons. And there's your price. So, just like before, I would love to see the blue. Last year, if you tackled that question, you'd probably be forced to show me the red. Don't. Show me the blue. Get there in one step. Markup means everything from before plus the additional amount. So if we multiply by 1 point, then we're good. Okay, let's keep it moving. Question 5. The cost of an album on iTunes has gone from $11.99 to $16.99. Determine the percentage increase in price. Okay, we need to come up with a percentage increase. So the way we calculate a percentage increase is we actually look at that wording backwards. We need to look at the increase as a percentage. So everyone should be able to tell me, well, what was the increase? How much did that price go up? $5. There's my increase. What we have to be careful of, though, is we have to really focus in on percentage increase. So how do you calculate the percent of something? You take a part out of a total and you multiply it by 100. So what's my part? Well, it's my increase. So I'm going to take that 5. And now I have to divide it out of a total. And here becomes the rub, is that you kind of have a choice between two things. I need you to get this down in your notes. That percentage increase is actually this. It's the new price, subtract the old price, That's our $5. But we have to consider it out of the old price. So how did we change the price relative what it was? Not what it is now. So if that green is my relationship, then what should be the bottom of my fraction? What am I going to put underneath that 5? Well, what was my old price? $11.99. Okay, you guys push some buttons again. Quickly, change it into percentage. Go as fast as you can go. Okay, nobody's forgetting to multiply that by 100 to change it into a percent. Do we have any rules on percent increase for price? No, we don't. So if you have no rules, you round off to 2 decimal places. Anybody got it? Cam, what do you got? 41.70. Since it's 70, I don't have to write down the 0. You can if you want, but it's not needed. And that is a percentage put on your units. There you go. Okay, hopefully not too bad. So you guys go as fast as you can. The maximum speed of a hyena is 64 kilometers per hour. A lion can run up to 125% of this speed. What is the maximum speed of a lion? Go as fast as you can go. We take a peek at that. If the maximum speed of a hyena is 64 and a lion can run up to 125 of that, then I really want to know what 125% of 64 is. And so now we have some options to go through and calculate that. Maybe we're pushing buttons and we're saying then change your percentage to a decimal. So 1.25 of means multiply. And we're pushing buttons on that maybe. If I don't have a calculator at my disposal, then maybe I'm looking at that 1.25 and I recognize that the 1 is going to give me 100% and the 0.25 is going to give me 25%. So really what I have then is I have to run 100% of the speed of the hyena, so 64 kilometers an hour, plus 25% of that, and 25% is a quarter. So I need to run a quarter of 64. And if I take 64 and I divide it by 4, I get 16. That we should have come up with. Put on your units, and you're good. And there we go. How many people were pushing buttons on the blue? Yeah, probably most, right? But just so you know, we could have broke it out and thought about it the way in green and red. Okay, that gets us to the end for percent. I just handed out your percent practice for you guys to be able to work through and play around with some of those percent problems on the back. Once I can upload